Okay, just a quick heads up before we get into the show. Here's the deal. I recorded a bunch of podcasts at ICSC Las Vegas this week, but there are two that I want you to hear right away. So I'm going to combine the two ICSC recap episodes that we did this week. First, we're going to talk with Anna Leon with Nuveen and Laura Fullington with Tanger. And then you're going to hear my conversation with David Spawn with Brixmor and Mike Jordan with Big V Properties. The first interview was recorded in the morning of day one, and the second was the last thing I did at the conference at the end of day two. The first part of the show, you're going to hear takeaways and trends from both interviews about retail real estate and the scuttlebutt at ICSC. And the second part of the show is stuff that's really not that important, talking about maybe where we ate, what it's like at the convention center this year. It's fun stuff, so I left it in, but I put it at the end. All right, let's get into the show. ICSC Las Vegas. It's the biggest retail real estate meetup in the world. For 3 days in the desert, people are meeting with as many other people as they possibly can, catching up with friends and contacts, with retailers, developers, investors, brokers. So today, as we kick off on the first morning of our first full day at ICSC, I think it's too early to tell what the key takeaways are going to be. So instead, we're going to talk about what we expect to learn. What do we expect to be talking about with people over these next 2 days? To find out, my morning guests are Anna Leon with Nuveen and Laura Fullington with Tanger. Live from Las Vegas, it's Where We Buy. That's right, you're listening to Where We Buy. It's the show where we talk with retail experts and we visit the places where we buy. My name is James Cook, and I research retail and real estate for JLL. Anna, Laura, welcome to ICSC 2025.
Woohoo! Thanks, James. Thanks for having us.
All right.
So excited to be here.
So for folks that don't know you, Anna, returning guest, I'll start with you. Introduce yourself. Tell us your name and what you do.
Hi, I'm Anna Leon. I lead retail research at Nuveen Real Estate.
And for folks that aren't familiar, how do you describe Nuveen Real Estate?
Large institution, but the world's oldest startup.
But you guys own a lot of real estate, right?
We're in it.
Yeah.
We're in it for the long game.
You're
Yes.
in deep. And Laura, Laura Fullington, how would you describe Tanger to folks that aren't familiar?
Yeah. So Laura Fullington, I head up the insights and analytics team at Tanger. And Tanger is landlord, owner, operator of outlet retail and moving into some open air centers and full price centers and just really kind of evolving their platform and merchandising to fit the consumer needs of today and tomorrow.
And we just, as I'm recording this, we just released an episode with Steven, your CEO, who told us all about everything going on at Tanger. So folks, if they haven't heard that, they should check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've had a morning. Any takeaways from this morning, or is it too early to tell?
It's early to tell.
Yeah.
I would say cautious optimism is still in the air. I think we're carrying on a lot of positive momentum that we saw last year. So strength in fundamentals, a strength in the consumer in some areas. I think there's a level of uncertainty in the air right now as to what can happen next, implications with tariffs. But I think everyone's pretty convinced that fundamentals are solid and that retail, there's some strength here.
Would you say that the tariffs pop up in most of the conversations?
Every conversation with investors, peers, other people just asking about what's happening in real estate, the T word comes up a lot.
What do people think about the T word? I've heard so many varying opinions. The most common opinion that I hear is it'll sort itself out. Just give it time. The fundamentals are there, like you said. So do you think that's the right way to approach it?
I think given the uncertainty, it's hard to say how things could play out because the situation is constantly evolving and changing.
Yeah.
And it's making it hard for retailers to plan, and therefore it makes it difficult for owners of real estate to plan. But, from our portfolio, leasing momentum still continues. Yeah. Particularly strong in Florida and in the Southeast. So that remains a positive. And I think there's retailers out there that are on a growth trajectory. and they're looking for new spaces. And now with vacancy not as tight as it was last year, there's like real opportunity out there. So that's where I'm seeing the optimism.
For sure. Yeah, there's a little bit of space out there to meet that demand. So, Laura, as you're going into day one now at the conference, what do you think you're going to be looking to find out? What are you going to be asking people about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious about, other people's perceptions and insights around, our retailers, are they cutting back on expansion? Are inventory levels going to be stocked up for the rest of the year or not? I know, as Anna said, the uncertainty piece of this is really, it really causes a lot of decision making that may or may not have to happen sooner rather than later. So it's a moving target, and just trying to understand where pricing lands, where inventory lands, how these tariffs affect, so many dynamics of the economy and the consumer sentiment. It's just, it's every day it's an unknown, and really trying to get some insight on what some of these retailers, investors, landlords, everybody's thinking about how they're going to react to these changes.
Yeah. When you all come to this conference, do you feel like you come away with a lot of new stuff when you come to a ICSC conference?
Yeah, I think what I like most about this conference, it gives me exposure to actually speaking to tenants that are growing, and we learn more about what they're looking for and what their next phase of their business looks like. So it's great to hear what QSR Food is doing versus what an apparel retailer is doing, and across the different spectrum of retail. Other thing I like to learn about is what people do and what their perspective is, because I think, we have our own little research group within ICSC, and it's really great to kind of break away and hear what other people are seeing in the capital market side that are experts. I mean, this really is a conference filled with experts in their niche in retail real estate.
The point is to come here and find out what retailers are doing. We talked, I guess you mentioned quick service, restaurants still expanding. Are there other categories? I mean, I guess value retail probably still expanding. Are there any shifts? I mean, my team covers the market pretty closely, and there seems to be more closures this year than there was this time last year. Not crazy, but definitely more vacancy than a year ago. So any shifts around tenant activity beyond quick service restaurants either of you guys seeing?
I think one thing that's really going to be successful in this next evolution of retail, just generally, is focus on health and wellness. I think that's one category that in the past has not fared well during an economic downturn, as people trade down or stop spending on the gym, for example. I don't think that's going to happen this time around. I think kind of higher level, we're seeing people look at eating healthy, working out, taking care of themselves physically and mentally as kind of a new luxury and a necessity.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see tremendous growth in that health and wellness space.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's certainly more medical users out there looking to lease retail space. It seems like every year. I mean, I just was talking to somebody that has a med spa, and he's got all these units. He's looking to expand, and there's a lot of stuff like that out there. So, Laura, any surprises so far, or is it too early to say that?
Not surprises. I think, one of the other reasons I come to this conference is to kind of meet with a lot of the data vendors and resources that are out there for us to, gather information and derive insights from. So, I think with, March coming out with, pretty good sales and traffic, and then April's looking, favorable in terms of traffic. And while U.S. retail sales was a little bit slower April over March, year over year, it's still pretty strong. And so I think we're trying to understand, like, where are all the parts and pieces of the information that we can look at to really understand the evolving dynamic of the consumer, and what are those resources what are those new vendors? How do we track our business better? And how do we make sure that those insights help us make better decisions going forward as an organization? So I really appreciate, having a forum here at Vegas to meet with some of these vendor data partners and so forth.
Yeah. That data piece, that's really key. I mean, we're all research people, so we see the value in it. But I think now everybody has so many question marks. I think everybody sees the value in data. Like for me, I'm pretty booked. I do a lot of podcasts, but I try to put in meetings and stuff in between when I can. You'd be shocked to find out there's so many vendors that have AI tools that want to meet. So I am doing a little bit of that because I really feel like I want to stay on top of AI and what is Gen AI going to mean and all of that. I don't know if that's something you guys think about too much as, AI tools in your work.
We absolutely do. We're starting to implement more AI in our Insights program. I think that like with any kind of data vendor or AI, whatever it may be, I mean, when you've got like an expertise or a niche in kind of a research insights role, these focused people with this type of job in this industry is an amazing role that really helps understand the ins and outs of all these data resources and making sure that you just don't take what's on the surface and you dig in and you understand each and every component to make sure that the insights that you're delivering for your organization, whether it be AI, whether it be traffic, whether it be demographics, tying all the pieces together to really help understand the dynamic of the consumer trends and your trade areas and your markets is very, very important.
Are you looking at any new AI tools that stuff that you're exploring yourself?
Nothing specific, but I think what I'm looking at, from a big picture sense is how this can be implemented into an already existing tool and how it can enhance it. So forecasting and modeling is one that we're thinking about a lot at Nuveen, particularly predicting rent growth or occupancy. That's what we're looking at kind of on a high level for tools for predictive modeling. And then the other application for AI that I think is going to be really compelling for retail is just consumer and predicting and helping to kind of automate your routine purchases. I feel like every company has said that is imminent, but we haven't really quite seen it yet.
I think we're all waiting on the moment where the consumer has an AI agent that is so trustworthy that they can say, go ahead and buy stuff for me that I need without me telling you to do it, And I guess we're not quite there yet. Okay, so you both work at companies that own a lot of retail real estate. So you see how consumers are moving in and around them. Any new trends around consumers that you're seeing at your portfolios?
I think at Tanger specifically, we've done a lot in our merchandising strategy and our efforts to kind of bring in a new merchandising mix. And I'm sure Stephen Yaloff talked about this in his podcast with you, but bringing in brands that resonate with a younger, but yet overlap generation. So Sephora, we've got Sephora across a handful of outlet centers. We've got Birkenstock. We've got some new Marc Jacobs. So we've got like new tenants coming in that really kind of attract and are relevant to a younger customer, but also kind of play into, all generations because of their relevancy. So something like a Lululemon too. We've got Lululemon. We've even got Viore at one of our centers. So, it definitely is an evolving merchandising effort to really kind of make sure we're bringing the best and most relevant tenants to our customers. And as the younger generations, shops a little bit more in person than online, we want to make sure we can give them that offering, in our centers.
Yeah.
And at value prices, for across the board. I mean, Tanger still provides really great prices and really great brands for all consumers.
Anna, any consumer insights?
I think the thing that has really endured is the consumer's need for convenience
Yeah.
So our investment strategy focuses on centers that are located on the customer's daily path, are centers that customers visit 2 to 3 times a week, and where he or she can accomplish multiple errands in one visit. So part of that is having the right mix of retailers that resonate with the demographic. I think Laura really points to an interesting trend that we're seeing in younger consumers, that their spending patterns are so influential on older generations like millennials and Gen Xers, as they are very active on social media, getting brand exposure to things that maybe their parents are. And so I think that younger spend is inspiring their parents to try new things. And I think that's why it's really interesting that retailers are taking notice of this. So we'll see brands like J. Crew Factory coming closer to their consumer in grocery-anchored centers. Sephora is another one that is really doing well with their off-mall strategy. And I think these are the kind of retailers that are pretty sticky and that consumers will still choose even in times of uncertainty.
Laura, I'm so glad we have you here because back to school, Tanger announced back to school is going to be extra early this year. What can you tell me about this? Because this is like a monumental shift. Nobody's ever done this before, right? That I know of.
Yeah. So Tanger, with this, uncertainty out there in the environment, we wanted to make sure that people had the brands that they want at the prices they want, and that inventory was there. So not knowing how any of this would play out with tariffs, we want people to think about back to school earlier. So we're kicking off back to school shopping in June, summer of savings, get people in the stores and start thinking about, purchasing those back to school apparel, shoes, accessories, and so forth earlier this year than the typical August, late July, August timeframe. So really helping kind of get those shoppers in earlier and then hopefully mitigate any of that loss that might happen if tariffs play out in a more substantial way.
Yeah. That's a smart move. And everybody needs stuff for back to school. So, okay, I was going to get it in the fall. Now I'm just going to get it in the summer.
Right.
From a summer, I should do commercials. It's a summer of savings at your local Tanger Center. Back to school. That's awesome.
Well, and I don't know about you, but in where we live, school starts on August 1st. So, June is kind of perfect for us to start thinking about back to school because the schools start so early.
Okay, so there's this term pull forward. For folks that aren't familiar, what that means is what I was going to do tomorrow, I'm going to do it today instead. So I'm bringing it to the present. So in this time of uncertainty, things like back to school are getting pulled forward. Any other examples of pulling forward around consumer spending that you all are seeing?
I think a lot of this pull forward is going to be centered around bigger ticket items. So things like iPhones, laptops. I think those types of things are going to be very popular. Other things, I think anything that we consider a daily need that is like a daily luxury, makeup, skincare, I think we're seeing those personal health and beauty and wellness sales pop over the last 2 months. And I think sneakers are going to be a big item this summer that people are just going to want to have and are going to buy when they see it. I think that's probably one of more of the fashion forward items that people will be pulling forward.
So this is going to be a 2-part episode, and this is the beginnings of ICSC Las Vegas. Tomorrow, we're going to return with Mike Jordan and David Spahn. Mike Jordan with Big V Properties, David Spahn with Brixmor, to wrap it up and talk about what they saw, what they heard, what they learned, and what they're seeing. All right, here we are in the final hours of the ICSC conference in Las Vegas. Our feet are tired. My voice is hoarse. Maybe somebody's regretting last night's nightcap a little bit. I don't know. But it's all been worth it for the people we've spoken to and the things that we have learned. And that is what we're talking about right now. Welcome, Mike Jordan, Director of Research for Big V Property Group and David Spahn, VP of Research and Marketing for Brixmor.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, James.
All right, welcome aboard. Before we get into our recap of what was ICSC Las Vegas 2025, tell the folks, and David, we'll start with you. Tell the folks what you do for Brixmor.
Great. Thank you, James. Yeah, so I direct all research activities at Brixmor. Brixmor is a open air shopping center REIT. We handle about 360 properties across the country, and all of the requests for any new information, data analytics, and or outside vendor partners come through me. And we also provide really a solution-based approach to the request for our 65 agents that are here at the show today.
Got it. You guys have a big presence.
We have a 7,000 square foot booth, and we've had over 600 meetings.
Mike?
Yeah, so I'm Director of Research at Big V Property Group, a very similar role as David, although our platform is a lot smaller. We own about 30 assets, $2 billion AUV under management, and primarily in the Southeast and Sunbelt states, a few others scattered elsewhere, primarily open air shopping centers similar to David. And yeah, I've been doing this for, over a decade. We have about 30 assets, $2 billion under management at Big V, primarily located in the Southeast with a few other locations as well.
Did either of you hear anything from anybody that surprised you over the past 2 days?
There was nothing surprising per se, but, it seemed like the financial side of things was really prevalent. We saw a lot of capital, a lot of banks come through our booth more than ever before. Not a lot of transactions folks coming through, but from what I'm hearing, there may be, there's a lot of assets that have been held back that may be coming to market soon. And so there's a lot of capital is very interested in retail right now.
Okay, because they see it as the least, in these uncertain times, it's a less risky choice.
Right, exactly. I mean, people are seeing how fast those boxes from Big Lots and Party City have been scooped up and realizing that, perhaps what seemed like an ominous beginning to 2025 is actually shaping up to be another really good year for retail.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. David, anything surprise you?
Yeah, so a little bit of a different tenor. So I haven't been here in 3 years. What I really noticed was what I want to call the acceptance of, I'll call the phrase, data is your friend. And it's sort of at all levels that, our agents, other tenant reps who come in are very interested to hear what we have to say. As much as they are, of course, they're talking about deals all the time. But, but they really now, to me, appreciate that perspective more than I remember even 3 years ago. And that's something to me that's new. It may not be, it may have been evolving over the last couple of years, but I really sense that seemed like that's been a sea change for me, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, of course, a lot of what the talk I've heard about is uncertainty around tariffs. But I think most people are just kind of like, well, nothing we can do about it. So let's keep going on. It really is this like, I'm accepting that I'm granted the, what's the prayer?
Grant me the patience to accept that which cannot change.
Yeah. Everybody's accepting that which they cannot change, and they're just trying to move on as best they can.
Right. Okay. And there's been such a high demand for quality space over the last few years. And I think even if you know you're going to have a rocky period, with the tariffs and other headwinds coming our way, the time to secure the space is now. If you're a retailer that's got a great platform and a runway for growth, we'll get out of we'll come out on the other side of this, and you don't want to pass up these opportunities because there's just, like I said, these bankrupt tenants have been filling up fast. The demand is just so higher than we've ever seen it before.
Yeah, one of the things my team tracks is a vacancy, and we had what we call negative absorption in the first quarter, which is the first one we've seen in years now, which means more vacant space than occupied space, like more people moved in than moved out. No, more people moved out than moved in, guys. Yeah. It's been a long day. You're going to have to forgive me. And so a little bit nervous, more closure announcements, but it sounds like from your point of view, that stuff is going to get leased up.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, from another public company that releases this kind of information that, they had quite a few big lots and Party Cities, and 90% of them are already spoken for. So I think, back in January, you were seeing a lot of headlines around, is this the next retail apocalypse? Is this 2016 again? But there's just, again, so much demand for space. We saw Burlington take, 44 Joann's boxes.
Yeah.
So, any retailer that wants to be around in a few years and they want to nab the best space, and those retailers really did have a lot of good real estate, they're gonna jump at the chance no matter what's going on in the broader world.
Yeah. It also feels like, to me, there's more of a long-term view now that you're really sensing. To that point, I mean, they're snapping space up because it's the reality of the world is that they know there's nothing's going to be delivered in 2 years, let alone 3 more years. So they have to move now. We had, some significant exposure to both Joann's and Big Lots, also as well as Party City. And as of the week before Vegas, 75% of those spaces were already spoken for.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. One of the things that I've heard in the past is that, because we got another round of vacant drugstores hitting, and I've heard people say, "Oh, those are often more difficult. Configuration, location, the structure of the lease." Any thoughts on second generation for drugstores?
Within our portfolio, it's not quite we're not really exposed too much to that drugstore world. I mean, there's a lot of the triple net guys. That's probably going to be a big headwind for them. I will say for, typical shopping centers like Brixmor or Big V when you do have a space like that, it may be expensive, but there is demand for out parcels, high demand for out parcels right now. I mean, you've got, Chipotle and Starbucks have been going out and trying to find as many, drive-throughable, is that a word?
Yeah.
Locations as they can get. You've got things like Kava and Dutch Bros that are expanding rapidly. And so I think the real estate under those CVSs and Walgreens you're still gonna see a lot of high demand.
Yeah. We don't really have significant exposure to the Rite Aids of the world. I mean, it's a little bit more on the Walgreens side, but from that perspective, I mean, we would just expect most of it to pass. Even if it's expensive, it's worthwhile from our perspective to do something more effective. If we're going to make our centers the centers of the communities that they're serving, we need to get relevant uses into that. And it's hard to believe that you could say sort of a pharmacy is not a relevant use, but at this point, that the current state of the pharmacy world is such that there are more relevant uses for those in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and you could also see something similar to what we've seen with, I guess, bank branches might fall into this, or almost like the mall to open air trend that we've been seeing, where sure, Walgreens is clear they're not going to necessarily be the Walgreens you knew of 9,000 square feet with health and beauty and food and convenience store options, but there may be a demand in the future once this sort of works itself out for sort of maybe mini inline spaces. I've heard a little bit about that. So, I mean, the healthcare is evolving and changing all the time, and we've seen it impact retail real estate, quite a bit in the last few years. So I don't know that, those providers are necessarily out of our world, forever.
Yeah, no. I would say one of the other uses that was sort of a little more intriguing for those spaces has been if they presumably often have a drive-up window. That becomes a very valuable commodity, and you can find many folks who want to have that access. So that's sort of would be a sort of a less thought about use for that space might be, could you break up it into multiple QSRs?
Yeah.
Have you guys at the conference run across any tenants that were either new to you or new to the market? Any new types of tenants? Anything like that?
Less on the new sort of experience kind of front, but more in the open air world for sure. We have had just a banner year bringing in tenants who are new to our portfolio. We're very excited about some of our projects that we have in suburban Philadelphia, where we just leased up 3 spaces in the span of 48 hours. That
Wow.
We're very excited about. It's going to be a total game changer in the north suburbs of Philadelphia. And, that's something that they weren't coming to us 3 years ago or 2 years ago. They are now coming, and they want to be in the product that we have because the space is there. Many are exiting malls that are really underperforming, and they're looking for that. What can be the next possible space for them?
Yeah. I haven't seen, again, but I did have an interesting conversation, about, sort of at scale, there hasn't been, a Five Below or an Ulta that's kind of come around in quite a while. But what kind of under the radar is there's been a movement of international retailers coming to the United States. And Daiso is probably the best example of that. Japanese retailer has over 6,000 stores worldwide. I think only about 100 right now in the U.S. They have a huge cult following, and we've got them at a couple of our centers in Texas. So I would look to that as a potential growth driver. And not in our portfolio, but we've seen Primark kind of move slowly and steadily. Lidl, the grocery store. There might be a few others I'm not thinking of, but it seems like there has been international interest in the U.S. market. Now, whether that changes with, the ongoing tariff situation, I guess we'll find out. But that might be where you see the innovation come from.
Right. And I would also say the other element that we're seeing is just the continued opening of grocery stores.
Yeah.
And sort of more, I don't want to call them refined, but it's a more specialized product that's coming. In 2015, we had no Sprouts in our portfolio. We just signed our 9th Sprouts this year. We're really excited we brought the first Whole Foods to Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And we're continuing to open with Aldi and some Lidl as well. So it's been a really exciting road. And we're now up to, I think, 81% of our ABR is from grocery anchored centers. So we continue to push that envelope as to how we get more grocers into our centers, because we just feel like it's a continued benefit to the consumer.
I was talking with someone from Italy yesterday, actually at a cocktail party, and they are known for their super immersive Italian food halls. And now they're doing small cafes in similar demographic areas, I would imagine, to where their food halls are. But they're trying to go small to allow for more growth. Oh, somebody else I talked to that was interesting, speaking of international, is Nando's. Do you guys, have you ever eaten at Nando's?
Yeah, we have a Nando's in Chicago.
Yeah. There's one on Michigan Avenue.
There's one in Skokie at Old Orchard. Where I live. And I think they're in Chicago, DC, and Dallas maybe. But they're pretty limited in their footprint right now.
Yeah, well, they're looking to expand. They do have expansion plans, and I don't know what's official, but so I won't repeat what I heard. But they've got some new openings coming. David, you ever eat Nando's Peri Peri chicken?
No, I have not. I do live in Queens, where we have access to quite a few
You've got
rotisserie chicken providers.
So this is Peri Peri chicken they're based out of South Africa, but they're popular like in Europe, Australia. Most people don't know them in a lot of places in the U.S., but they're awesome. I'm a big fan of their food.
Yeah, they're really good. I know in England, they're basically like Chipotle in England. They're everywhere, and people call them Cheeky Nando's.
Cheeky Nando's. Oh, I did not know about that. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. I didn't even 5 years ago. I know for sure I didn't know what Peri Peri chicken. I still don't know what it is. I know what it tastes like, but what is Peri Peri?
I think it's some sort of like Portuguese, but an African sort of fusion, and it's really all in it's all in the spice and the sauce.
Yes, I think that like Peri Peri sauce is that's particular to ingredients. As Mike had said, it is Portuguese based, but it is actually because it's where the Portuguese went through South Africa.
Ah, got it.
And they picked up local ingredients that they needed to then introduce into their cuisine.
So it's a world cuisine.
Yeah.
That's why it's so tasty.
Right, at its heart. Yeah.
So both of those examples were from parties, which is where you often get the most information. Any topics that you either of you heard at a party or a mixer or a reception?
Well, I don't know if this came from
no, go ahead.
I don't know if this came from a party or a reception, but there is a ton of municipalities and economic development districts that are present here with booths more. And one of them actually reached out to me, which is, a first in all my years coming to Vegas for the show, from Laverne, Tennessee. And I asked him, like, is it just me, or is there a lot more municipalities here? He's like, yeah, I've been doing this for over a decade, for 17 years, and I've never seen this many economic development people at ICSC. And I'm wondering, or speculating, I should say, whether that shows that there is starting to be some feeling out of development. That, we've been in a almost zero growth, supply growth environment since the great financial crisis, and we're also in a environment where there's so little space. Like I said, you've got people fighting over the Joannes and the Big Lots boxes of the world. So at what point does development make sense? And I don't think anyone's like ready to come out and say we're going full steam on this yet. But I feel like there's something brewing.
Yeah.
I just am still interested because even from tenants, we heard their greatest hindrance right now is the price of steel.
Right.
Like for new stores. And you have to translate that then, of course, to sort of a larger environment, to landlord environment. You're going to really run into issues where you just cannot charge enough to pay for the cost of building the product itself. And that, while I'd like to imagine that the cities are more amenable to development, but if you've sat through any redevelopment meetings with local authorities, it's surprising how much you hear in terms of what they want to get out of the product.
Right.
That maybe is not super friendly to the bottom line for the developer.
As a part of my job, I've never had to do that. It sounds interesting. What, these are like city council meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
I heard an interesting
planning
story
review.
today. Yeah.
City council. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I heard an interesting story from a city council meeting about wanting to put in some experiential elements into a lifestyle center. And, there was one city council member at this particular place who wouldn't approve the redevelopment because they were afraid that the green space, there would be kids playing soccer in the green space. And what if a ball accidentally goes into the parking lot?
Yeah.
And it scuttled the entire project. And there was no convincing this person. Wow. Yeah, that is a real, wow. That's a winner.
What do they call that? NIMBY, not in my backyard.
That's
right.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, you talk, well, back to the point about having a lot of representatives from, the cities themselves. Like yesterday, I was chatting with the mayor of Yorba Linda, California, and there's all these mayors that are coming out to a retail real estate conference in Las Vegas. The mayors of cities are taking this time out of their busy schedules. Clearly, they see the need. And they hear, I feel like a lot of them were elected or hear that their communities they were elected on this platform, or they hear that their communities want more like good retail in the cities, more restaurants and shopping options. And they're like, all right, well, I got to go to Las Vegas to figure this out for everybody.
Exactly.
I do wonder how much of that comes down to tax-based increases.
Oh, yeah.
And if you think about it now, especially with sort of the uncertainty of what funding is going to continue to exist,
Right.
you're really going to need to sort of push the envelope. And I can't imagine that people sort of jumped on that rationale for this early in the process of, getting that going. But it does, I wonder if there's any kind of a through line that we're going to start to see, that there is an interest in bringing more tax base into your city because you can't rely on grants or other funding that you traditionally had as a source.
Yeah, and it's in a lot of big metro areas, it's like almost suburb against suburb.
Yes.
And so if the town 5 miles north just got like a really nice redeveloped mall mixed use project, then you need to have one too, or everyone's going to move 5 miles north.
Right. Yeah.
Which is funny too, because like to the person who lives there, it's all the place where they live. They don't see those political lines in the ground.
I guess I would say, does anyone remember Avalon?
Right.
I mean, exactly. It's sort of like the leapfrogging of every sort of bright new shiny object.
Yeah.
So so let's lay that out, because I think that's interesting. So this is Avalon in Atlanta area, and
correct.
they build this just wonderfully successful lifestyle center. And then what happens?
Well, now what's the new property up in? Is it Johns Creek? I forget the next neighborhood up that's going to be the newest one. So it's a little northeast. It's not necessarily like farther out, but
I don't know the name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it has some like it's evoke at something, or it's some lovely sort of word soup salad property where it's just this idea that as you come in and you build something and then something happens farther out and then it keeps just sort of going. And then the life cycle is that the interior ones eventually, the assumption is they'll start to be renovated and redone or demolished if it doesn't work. And then, but there's always this sort of constant evolution. And you see it particularly in cities like Atlanta or Dallas, where you have the ability to keep adding and you have the household growth to sustain it.
Right. And the last time I did a market tour in Atlanta, 2023, and I saw Avalon, and then I was just kind of like going up, whether it was 400, I think it was. And every town seemed to have a mini Avalon as you got further.
The one I know is one that JLL manages called Halcyon.
Yeah, that's actually the one I was thinking of, but I couldn't quite bring the name back. But yeah, that's the one.
Which is the one. It's a wonderful little mini Avalon type project. Yeah. It's great. All right, technology. Part of our jobs as research and strategy people is to stay on top of all the latest and greatest. I managed to squeeze in 2 or 3 meetings with tech folks, saw some new AI tools. Did you encounter new technology, or was it really old technology that you ran into?
I would really call it sort of evolution of existing technology. You know, as we look through sort of what are the best solutions that we could bring to Brixmor, I mean, a lot of it is just really, how do we help deals get done?
Yeah.
And if it's not going to really help out with that, I mean, with no disrespect to the ideas or, you know, I'm sure there are great applications for a lot of them. I'm not as interested. There is some of the new things I'm looking for are companies that can sort of bring together like retailer growth plans and match them up to my portfolio for me. Because I mean, right now at some level I can do that. But if we can do it and get some sort of automated system that feeds into technology we have already, that's always the key, is that there was a push for a while for doing standalone platforms. And that just, to me, it's just a kill. It's a kill switch automatically.
It's almost like streaming services, right? You can only subscribe to so many.
Thank you. That's a perfect analogy for it. Yeah, it's like, yes, I get it. This is great. But, if you can't tie into what I have now, like if I can't get the deals, if you have a Salesforce environment or whatever, what do I want this for? It's like, it's just another thing that somebody has to fill out and figure out how to download the information and pull it in. And it's just not worth it.
Yeah. I didn't see a ton of new technology at this show, and just in terms of like my meetings were just kind of focused elsewhere. I did have one really productive meeting with Placer, and I thought, to David's point, they are bringing in a lot of other stuff into their platform, which makes, obviously you still have to sort of pay the add-on fee. It's still an extra cost, but it's hopefully more efficient and it makes more sense. AI, I've personally been known as an AI skeptic, but it's something that I think everyone in our business needs to grapple with. And even if it is these platforms that I've seen or heard about, there's a lot of promises for what it can do, and it's up to us, because we're going to be the ones asked to basically verify, is this going to do what you need it to? Like least abstraction is something that seems to be where a lot of the AI innovation in our industry is. And there's a good reason for that, because it's a very manually intensive process. Yeah. I've worked with a company that tried to outsource that process a long time ago, and the results were so bad that they that I ended up having to fix them all for months. That was a long time ago, way before AI was in anyone's radar. But if AI can do that, then great. But at the same time, you don't want it to. You have to trust but verify, right?
Yes,
you can't put too much trust in it. I don't know if you saw today, the Chicago Sun-Times published. Do you see this?
No, I didn't.
The Chicago Sun-Times published their summer reading recommendations. They used AI to generate the feature, and every book mentioned in it was not real.
Oh. I love that story. What a cautionary tale.
The authors were real authors, and I think what it was doing was like making up what that author could potentially, what their next novel could have been. This is obviously not necessarily retail focused, but somehow that went through, I don't know how many layers of review, but it got printed.
Wow.
And and so, it's trust but verify. You need to understand that it can be a time saver, but it can't be a replacement for actual human thoughts.
Yeah. And I think that's what I've seen. So I've sat in on a couple tenant meetings where we demonstrated a tool that we've rolled out at Brixmor that effectively does a best fit analysis. And it just gives you some quick opportunity sets that agents can then forward on to their clients. And what I found, I actually heard was really, it was sort of affirming, was one of the deal makers was like, we need that. And this is a company with 2,500 stores. And they're pointing at something that the landlord has brought to them to show them, to say, we can produce these opportunities for you, but it's right there, And they're like, that's what we need.
Well, it's interesting too. I think that when I see somebody says, oh, here's this new AI tool or AI platform, I think that's less compelling as when it's an existing software platform that I already use that has a new AI component to it.
Because it can help you sort through the massive data. At that point, you know what it's trained on and what it can and can't do. It can make things easier in terms of finding what you need. But yeah.
As long as it doesn't hallucinate, well, you just have to verify everything. Yeah. You really can't get lazy.
No. I mean, maybe that's one of the big learnings. Is as we sort of ventured down this path now that is clearly we're going to see AI in the future, that it could constantly it needs to be verified. That is sort of it's a gatekeeper role. Yeah, really.
Lazy is a really good word. And I don't mean it. Obviously it's, a loaded term, but people can't expect AI. A lot of people would think, AI is going to replace their work. They're using it because they want to be lazy. And that's not really, there can be tons of benefits, hopefully down the road, but it should make us work smarter, not lazier.
Yeah. I'm going to ask this question. I don't know if there is an answer, and it's fine if there isn't. Every couple of years, maybe, I don't know, every so often we get a new data source that we find really valuable. I think the mobility data a number of years ago, it took a little while to catch on, but when it did, it really caught on. Are there new data sources out there, or is it really just refinements of the existing data? Is anything catching your eye right now in the world of data?
Frankly, no. It continues to seem like it's refinements, and I feel like a broken record because I keep, somebody will ask me undoubtedly, what's the future of your research world? It's like, what's next? What's exciting? And I'm like, I don't know. I do think there's one area where I think that we'll see, it seems like we're getting more evolution is in picking up transaction data and finding ways to get that into a meaningful, workable solution for landlords or for customers. That, because for so long we operate in a vacuum, yes, mobility data is great. We love it. We're a Placer customer, but we don't really have a sense of how well the stores are doing. It can be visited, but if you don't have that information. Right. And so that's really what we'd be after. But some of the solutions we've seen have just been sort of, frankly, too unwieldy. And I think but it feels like that logjam is finally sort of starting to maybe loosen up a little.
Yeah, transactions are a perfect example of something where there is no centralized source. Right. So that if you can get that in a very easy to use format, because some of the things I've seen that might have it, it always has major holes in it, or it's like,
or it's at the zip code level, and there's 18 Starbucks in the zip code, and you don't know how to ascribe the sales to any of them.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I got, you were talking about transactions.
Sorry, yes.
In a retail store. I was talking about real estate that's being bought and sold. No, okay.
Sorry, yes, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So retail sales at the store level.
Yes. So I really think that's the area that we would love to find a better solution. And, REITs are known for, being thrifty, but I would say if there was a solution out there that was meaningful in that arena, that would be something we would jump on.
But yeah, that's always been the holy grail. Can we get store level transaction data?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What percentage of your tenants report their sales? Do you have that?
I believe I was once quoted as saying you could drive a semi truck through the holes in our store sales database.
I've only worked in the open air space.
Yeah.
And
Very
rare.
small. Very small.
Yeah, it's less than half.
And the ones that do report in the open air world are generally small shops or mom and pops.
Right.
So, but what really drives, strategy is, what's TJ Maxx doing?
Right.
What's Best Buy doing at the center?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't report that. Okay.
Yeah.
No. And they sometimes will even like hold on to like lease terms from the previous tenant, like if they can figure out any way that they can get that they don't have to share sales.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up this conference in 1 minute. I'm going to ask you, let's do 2 more questions. Question 1, overall mood, not your mood, but the overall mood of people that you talk to about the near term of retail real estate. Was it optimistic, pessimistic, or neutral?
I would say, and this is an interesting question because this is the word the term I've been using, cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
I was actually just thinking in my head, it was cautious.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say eager, but I don't know if cautiously eager, but I mean, they want to continue to advance, but yet they're aware of the macro headwinds that are out there and are just, they don't want to bite off more than they can chew.
It feels like there's been several years now of, okay, if we can just wait a few more months to get, one more Fed rate cut, or if we can, once once we've got, inflation under 3%, or whatever this magic thing is that we've got somewhere out on the horizon, and maybe we even reach those benchmarks, but then there's something else out there that seems threatening. And I think there's been, sort of an itchiness, an itch that people need to scratch to finally say, all right, we just live in an uncertain world now, so let's just do it.
Yeah, it does feel like that uncertainty. Like, I think I was talking with Megan Martindale like earlier this year and just sort of saying, are Black Swan events the new normal? Because it feels like they are. Like January felt like it was like the house was on fire, and from fires in California to floods to, to tariffs to what have you. And now it's, but if this is the world we live in, it's sort of like that it's the old axiom of like, it's the change is the new normal.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's like chaotic change is the new normal. And how do you deal with that?
Last Monday I gave a presentation on tariffs where, I had built the deck up when the tariffs were announced at like 154% or whatever the triple digit number was. And then on the Monday of the presentation, it's like, no, it's 30. I had to redo the entire presentation, which fortunately was, later in the afternoon. But it's that level of uncertainty that we're dealing with. It would have been very different if that news hadn't come out. I would have been all doom and gloom. And then if the 30%, announcement was the next day, it would have been like, well, everything I just told you goes right out the window.
I have a tariff deck that's a live document that I just basically have to update every day with whatever, because some retailer has some comment about tariffs impacting them, or there's a change in the number, or there's a change in, what countries are in talks. There's so many moving parts to it. Are you all in a rush? Do you have a few extra minutes? You do have an extra few minutes? Okay, let's do some bonus content. Let's do the stuff that is inside baseball, the conference talk. So the conference center is under construction. The central hall is totally closed. We're here in the North Hall, where normally we would be there. The Uber situation is a nightmare. Nobody knows where they're going. How long did it take you to get here this morning?
6 minutes.
What?
I took the Vegas loop.
Oh, you looped it. Okay, well, that's a hot tip. Was there a line at the loop? I still haven't done the loop.
There was a line, but it moved pretty quick.
Okay, how much does a loop cost?
It was like $5.
Oh my gosh, cheaper than an Uber. Which station? Because now there's like 3 stations, maybe 2 stations. I don't know. Where do you pick it up at?
Right outside the North Hall. So there are a couple drop-offs, but
it's at your hotel you can pick it up at?
Yeah, Resorts World.
Oh. So you can pick it up inside Resorts World. And for folks that aren't familiar, it's an actual tunnel underneath the city where they drive cars and drive you. So that's cool that you did that. Anna, how was your Uber ride?
Not great, but I'm going to try the loop on the way home.
Okay. All right. So the Other construction talk here. Huge lines at the restrooms. That was another issue I ran into. It's too late for all your listeners now, but I discovered there are more restrooms on the other side at the back of the North Hall. So where the lines are much lower. So that was very helpful for me. What else is going on? What's different about the logistics of the conference? Is there anything new to talk about that you guys have noticed?
The North Hall, South Hall shuttle bus.
Oh, tell me about that. I haven't experienced it yet.
There's a bus that links the North Hall and the South Hall. Now you don't have to do the mid-hour shuffle running down the Central Hall anymore. There's a shuttle. It takes about 10 minutes to get from one side to the other. So making it back and forth is a lot easier now. And tonight, my feet are going to be in much better position to go out and party.
Is it like an enclosed coach, or is it an open air tram, or?
Oh, it's a party bus.
Oh.
It's a well air conditioned party bus, which is a lot better than sweating it out running in the sun.
And it takes like 10 or 15 minutes to walk it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so funny. You'd think, oh, it's just down there, but that's what Las Vegas is. Everything looks like it's so close, and then it takes forever to actually walk to it.
Yeah, it's almost like a mirage, literally.
So you're partying tonight. There's, of course, the hottest ticket in town is a JLL client party. But what else is going on? Where else are you guys headed tonight?
Nuveen Real Estate and Friends. We're having our closest brokers and tenants for dinner at Delilah.
Oh, okay. So I just walked past Delilah yesterday. Am I right? It's like a 20s supper club? Is that what it looked like to me? Because I don't know about it.
Yes, exactly. I think you would really enjoy it. They have jazz performances. I think, other nights during the week, they have other theme nights are centered around music, or like a Billie Holiday kind of night. Food is excellent. The ambiance is excellent and so cool. It's really like no other place in Vegas.
Wow.
I had heard that they will be opening soon in Meatpacking in New York City. So maybe we should try that, ICSC New York.
So is it is the food like a steakhouse kind of thing, or is it more?
It has that kind of vibe, but It's your typical fare for restaurant, high-end quality food that would be at a place like the Wynn.
Gotcha. Right. So it's inside the Wynn, but it looked like you were stepping back in time. Looking at it, I was like, oh, I want to go in there. That place looks really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Laura, any dinner plans, dinner restaurant plans to talk about?
No, I don't have any dinner plans. The Brixmor's hosting an event. You'd be sure to ask David about that tomorrow when you when you have him on the show.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other competitor events going on, but trying to fit in dinner on top of, everything else that goes on here is sometimes challenging.
Yeah, I kind of thought I probably won't make it to dinner tonight. I'll probably just grab some bars or something, because I'll do our party, then the Brixmor party, and after that I'll be probably done.
We should organize a party bus to take us to In-N-Out Burger.
Oh my God.
That's always been my dream at the show, and I never make it.
Oh, yeah. So the In-N-Out Burger situation, you used to have to go off strip, but there's In-N-Out on the strip now, right?
Yep. I believe it's located at the Link. So that's one of the newer refurbished malls on the strip.
I mean, I love In-N-Out Burger a lot, and I live east.
Same.
As do you, Anna. Now, Laura, you can get In-N-Out Burger whenever you want.
I can.
Are you a big In-N-Out? You may not be a big fast food person. I don't know.
Well, we like our burgers.
Yeah.
We've got a variety of ones that we like to hit up, but yeah, In-N-Out Burger's in the list.
It's my favorite because I get it rarely. Like Shake Shack is more ubiquitous now.
Mm-hmm.
Five Guys, very ubiquitous. I think those are all of relatively high quality. What do you feel? You said you like a good burger.
Yeah.
What do you feel?
Shake Shack.
Yeah.
Right now we're on a Shake Shack kick.
Yeah, I love that smoke shack.
My daughter and I, it's our special, lunch out together.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Shake Shack cheese fries. That is the champagne of cheese sauce.
The champagne of cheese fries. Oh, yeah. And I love Shake Shack, too, because they have the Abita root beer, which I really like.
Yes.
And then if it's adult time, They'll usually have beer on tap, which is great. You don't always get that with QSR. Yeah, I'm a huge fan for sure.
Is it lunchtime or is it just me? Are we all really hungry right now?
No, I'm really hungry. And so the food is slim pickings at this conference center. I think we probably have some sandwich. JLL probably has some sandwiches that I can go grab. But if you're here as an attendee, it's like down there's like a fast food vending area or something. I don't know. What are you guys going to do for lunch?
There's a food court down by Starbucks. So I think there's pizza, maybe a burger situation, and maybe a salad situation.
Yeah. Have you ever had like good food at a conference?
Not this one.
I can't think of any. Food is always like secondary. It's just fuel to get you through the conference.
Every now and again, one of the bigger landlords will have one of their favorite tenants serve in the afternoon. And last year I was lucky to get Salt and Straw ice cream. That was a treat. It was also like breakfast and lunch.
Yeah, I love Salt and Straw. That place is great. And at least whenever I've gone, always a line to get to the Salt and Straw. Not easy to get to. So we're going to get some food. I'm hungry. Thank you so much for joining me, not only for the regular podcast, but for the bonus inside ICSC conversation. We'll see if I even use it. Who knows? But anyway, thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today. This has been great.
James. This is
Thank
awesome.
you for having us.
Okay, well, whenever I go to a good dinner, I always try to think of what my bite of the night is, like my favorite tasting thing. But let's do a bite of the conference. So for your time here in Las Vegas, because all three of us are out of towners, what was the best meal or best taste that you had? I'll go first. So I had brunch at Esther's Kitchen, which is, I guess, an Italian restaurant, but not really, kind of like modern Italian in the Arts District. It's very well known locally. Apparently very popular too. Like, don't go there without a reservation. The brunch was lovely, and my bite was they make their own bread. So good, homemade bread. I think it was sourdough. And you order from this selection of spreads. So we had an anchovy butter caper spread. We had one that was some kind of meat, like spicy meat spread. And they have their own homemade butter. There was another one that I'm blanking on. But anyway, that anchovy caper creamy butter spread on that homemade bread, that was my bite of the week.
Okay.
It was an umami explosion.
It was so good. So good. And everything we had there was good, but that was my bite of the week. You guys have any thoughts on bites? Or did you just eat a bunch of junk at the convention center the whole time?
Well, I'll tell you, maybe this is, I don't know if this is the bite of the week, but, at the convention center, just maybe 30 minutes before coming over here for the podcast, one of the booths here, Perform Properties, has Salt and Straw ice cream.
Oh, good times.
That's, if anyone on the West Coast knows about Salt and Straw, but for the rest of the country, you're missing out. It was coffee ice cream with chocolate covered pecans, and it was out of this world. So yeah, I ended up, eating well at the conference.
That's awesome.
I have not eaten well at the conference, but I think I know what my next bite of the week will be. So yeah, mostly just, unfortunately, I've actually had no dinners over the course of the last 2 days. So They have all been either functionally appetizers or, well, there maybe was some drinks in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But nothing memorable. Memorable. Okay. All right. Do you have dinner plans tonight?
I have no dinner plans tonight.
Okay.
So I probably ought to make some because it feels like I'm doing myself a disservice.
Go find that Salt and Straw. All right. Well, this is it. This is an official wrap. This is the last thing I have to do at ICSC.
Me too.
Las Vegas 2025.
I have one more meeting.
Oh, well, it's almost a wrap. Everybody except for David. But thank you so much for joining me, guys.
Thank you,
This has been
James.
great.
Thank you so much, James.
Always.
And if you want to hear more interviews, audio, retail tours, and new research insights, you can subscribe to Where We Buy on the iPhone podcast app, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on the web over at wherewebuy.show. And that's it. All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
That might have been like maybe it was because David was here.
Yeah.
But that was the most like at ease I've ever felt doing one of these.